Okay. Hey, Alex, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for coming on. And as we were talking about just before we got on, I think you were on the show before. I don't, the name was familiar, but I can't remember. But when you mentioned graphic novels, was that what you were doing or still are doing?
I am writing comics. I'm also writing novels, but I think when we spoke, it was for Aranya Spider-Man 2099 Dark Tomorrow, which was a Spider-Verse novel I wrote that came out about a year and a half ago.
Alter Ego, this is a full novel, right?
Yeah, it's a prose novel. It has some graphic novel sequences because the characters in the novel work in comics, and so you get to see their work as you read the novel.
Okay, and this particular one, Alter Ego, is a follow up to Secret Identity.
Yeah, we're calling it a standalone sequel. So it does feature some of the same characters and themes, but it's set in the modern day as opposed to the 1970s and has a new protagonist in Annie Bustamante, who is a former comic book artist and writer who has moved on to film and is pulled back into comics when her favorite character is relaunched by this obscure new company. And she's tapped to spearhead the relaunch in comics. But as she digs deeper into the story, she realizes that there's some dark underpinnings that are trying to hide who actually created the Lynx, which is a character she feels very tied to. It's the character that brought her into comics and into the field.
When you say a standalone sequel, does that mean you don't have to read the first one to understand what's going
Yeah,
on in the second
yeah,
one?
exactly. You can read Alter Ego on your own. You'll obviously get a little bit more if you read them together and read the graphic novel as well. But on its own, Alter Ego is hopefully an entertaining standalone thriller.
Give us a little bit of a synopsis of actually the whole story, if you could.
Sure. So, Secret Identity, the first part of the saga, is a story about Carmen Valdez, a woman who queer Cuban-American woman who moves from Miami to New York to work in comics in the 70s. She gets a job as a secretary at a third grade company called Triumph Comics and is basically told stop pitching ideas. You'll get, we have other plans for you, but for now, don't pitch us comic book ideas. And then she's approached by her colleague who has an opportunity to launch a new comic female superhero in the Triumph universe. So Carmen agrees to co-write the character and co-create the character with him in secret. But when he's murdered, she has to solve his murder to reclaim this character. And you see the pages from the comic book in the novel. Secret Identity did well. It won the LA Times Book Prize and got a ton of acclaim. Alter Ego is set in the modern day, and we find the protagonist is Annie, who I mentioned before, who is a fan of that character, the Lynx, and found great connection in realizing that another Cuban American woman like herself was a contributor. She didn't know that Carmen created the character. But part of the mystery of Alter Ego is Annie discovering the hidden history of this character and fighting to make sure that this truth comes out.
I'm working a little bit backwards here, but can you kind of give us your backstory of how you got started writing? Or was that something you wanted to do since you were a little kid and just said, I'm going to be a writer when I grow up?
Yeah, it was always something I wanted to do or liked to do, coming up with stories, whether it was actually something I cognizantly thought of as writing. But I have a journalism background. I did a lot of publicity and marketing work. So I've always crafting word play and writing has always been part of my life and career. And I was able to parlay that into a creative writing track that I was doing with a day job at the same time. But recently, after a couple of years, I've been fully freelance for a few years, and that's been really heartening.
Oh, that's great. You know what? I just had a flashback, and I'm not a psychic or anything, so don't take it in that sort of
Okay.
ooh sort of way. But
Mhm.
when you were on the show the first time, did you do something related to the Archie's comic?
I did. I worked at Archie for a long time. I wrote stuff like Archie Meets Kiss, Archie Meets the Ramones, and things like that.
Okay, now I kind of remember our conversation because I think I mentioned to you that when I was a kid, you used to be able to cut out the back of a cereal box and there would be a record that you could
Hmm.
play. And some of those were from the Archies. And I had
Right.
that memory.
Yeah.
Okay, that's you. Now I remember you.
Yeah. 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 So we confirmed it. It's happened. It happened.
It happened. Okay, all right. Sometimes my memory is slow, but it gets there eventually. Have any of your works been done into animated series, or are you pursuing that kind of avenue for your work?
I would love that. I mean, some of my stuff has been optioned. It's too early to announce anything, but I would love to see my stuff adapted into other mediums for sure.
Do you have any kind of desire to go off and do, I don't know, cookbooks or something completely off of your
Uh,
genre?
yeah, I mean, I hop around in genre a lot. I write mysteries, I write sci-fi, I write comic books, I write some nonfiction. So I don't think a cookbook would be completely out of the realm, but it's not something on my like to-do list right now.
Okay. Do you know how many are going to be in this? What's the series called, by the way?
The first book is Secret Identity, and then we have Alter Ego, and there's also a graphic novel that collects the Lynx comic books as a full four-issue story. And I think that's pretty much it for now. I don't have any plans for another book in the series. I feel like the story stands alone as this kind of trilogy of ideas. But you never say never. There could be an opportunity to do more down the line.
Is there a specific name for the series or no?
I guess the Secret Identity series.
It features a Cuban-American heroine.
Yeah.
You want to tell us just a little bit about her?
Sure. Annie Bustamante is the protagonist of the series. She's Cuban American. I'm also Cuban American. My parents came over in the 60s after Castro took over. She finds great identification when she realizes that the Lynx also had a Cuban American writer, and that really propels Annie to work on work in comics as a career. And she's a mom. I think that was really an interesting part of the character, that she's a mom and she is raising her child while working and doing all these things. A lot of times in thrillers, the heroes are loners with no responsibilities outside of solving the mystery. And I really wanted to explore like, well, what would happen if someone else who had other things to do, like be a parent or have a job, had to be thrust into the role of like amateur sleuth.
Does she have any superpowers?
No, no. I mean, her superpower is she's talented and very driven.
Well, that can be a superpower depending on
Hmm.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got just a couple of minutes, and I just wanted to touch on Cuba for a second, if you don't mind. Have you
Okay.
been to Cuba?
I have not been. No, I haven't.
Is that something you want to do?
I'm sure down the line I'll find an opportunity to go and see what it's like firsthand. Yeah.
Okay, because I know that for Americans, I've known a few people that have gone. I guess you still can't directly go. You have to go through somewhere else because of State Department rules. I don't know if that's changed.
I don't know. It's always evolving. I think there's ways. Yeah, there are ways to get there.
You can, and they won't stamp your passport if you're an American. You'll just get in,
I don't
basically.
know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Well, because I know some Canadians that they can go right in, but because of the sort of weird relationship that America has had with Cuba since Kennedy, basically,
Yeah.
and those laws are still in place, and it's like enough already, I think. But
Yeah, I mean, I think the embargo has ebbed and flowed, and so I'm not surprised if it's challenging to get there directly for sure.
well, do you have a number three in the works for this?
Not immediately. I'm writing a novel set in the Marvel Daredevil universe. That's my next novel coming out next year. And then I'm working on another crime novel that's completely different from the Secret Identity books, but hopefully will resonate with people that enjoy them.
I guess the last question is, well, two last questions. Has it been released, Alter Ego?
It just came out today. Yeah.
Oh, today's the release date. Okay. All right. And the very last question, do you have a website that you want to give out?
I do, alexsegura.com, and I also have a Substack newsletter, alexsegura.substack.com, where you can find me.
Okay, and there's information about the books and where people can purchase
Hmm.
them and things from the website, yeah?
Yeah, and you can also order signed books from my local indie bookstore and kind of see what I'm up to for the rest of the year.
Okay. Well, Alex, it was nice to have you back on the show, and I know you're doing probably a media tour today. How many interviews have you got left to do today?
One more. So you're the penultimate one,
Oh,
and I've been
okay.
doing them since about 8 this morning. So it's been busy, but good. No complaints.
All right, great. Well, again, nice to see you again, and best of luck.
Thank you so much, Douglas.